In a corporate climate where performance and service are the buzzwords, why are customer complaints on the rise? And why are so many companies still getting it so wrong? Business author Steve Simpson thinks he's found the answer. He's worked as a consultant for large organisations and been a keynote speaker at conferences around the world. He says all companies have what he calls unwritten ground rules, and understanding what they are is the key to better business. Steve Simpson is talking to Lisa Whitby about his book, Cracking the Corporate Culture Code.
Well, Steve, as somebody who works with many different big companies, what's wrong with our corporate culture?
Well, I think it's a function of people not actually knowing what corporate culture actually means, Lisa. It's quite incredible, I think, that so many managers and senior managers at that reference corporate culture and the need to get their culture right. But it's my view that the large proportion of people really don't understand culture in practical terms. So when they don't understand it, it becomes much more difficult to actually manage.
Well, just in very simple terms, Steve, explain what you think corporate culture should be defined as, and also the concept of unwritten ground rules.
Well, I think got an awareness, a true awakening of what corporate culture actually meant when I heard a presentation by someone who said, this is the way we do things around here. And I think that for me switched on a light. It actually gave me a clue as to what culture actually meant. It's the way we do things around here. It's people's perception of this is the way we do things, irrespective of what's written down in documents or produced for customers in their documentation and marketing material. It's people's perception of the way we do things around here. And from there I generated this new concept which I've called UGRs, and essentially what the book is written about, which stands for unwritten ground rules. And I think this goes a long way to actually helping people understand what corporate culture actually means. Perhaps I could give you an example of some real UGRs in an organisation that I'm aware of, and they include things like, around here at our meetings it isn't worth complaining because we know nothing will get done. Around here the company talks about good customer service but we know they don't really mean it, so we don't have to worry about it. Around here the only time anyone gets spoken to by the boss is when something is wrong, and so on. And I think as soon as people get an awareness of those sorts of clues as to some unwritten ground rules, it's liberating for people. They can understand all of a sudden what corporate culture actually means.
So what you're saying is that these ground rules are with us in the workplace at all times, sometimes without us even realising it.
Absolutely, and I think a really good test for UGRs in any organisation is a new employee, because if they're lucky they get an induction or orientation where they get told this is the way we do things around here, and then they go and find out the truth. But the incredible thing about UGRs is that they are rarely, if ever, talked about. People have to deduce them. And you see, a new employee might see or hear a manager saying we are totally committed to customer service, but the next day they might overhear that same manager shouting or yelling or talking about a customer in a derogatory way, and quickly they deduce that the unwritten ground rule is that the company talks about good service but we know they don't really mean it because the managers aren't committed to it. That's obvious.
Well, Steve, why do we have to conform to these rules? What if we just decide to ignore them?
Well, that's a really good question, and I think the real challenge is for people to fight against them. When I talk about UGRs to various groups, people can immediately connect when I talk about the difficulties we face when fighting against the unwritten ground rules. We very quickly get alienated that people don't include us in the in crowd, or sometimes we might overtly get told, look, you know, you'll have to conform or else it's out of here. So it's very difficult for people to fight against prevailing UGRs, because remember, this is an organisation's culture and it's probably been like that for quite some time. So people conform, and I've got a theory, I haven't tested this yet, but I've got a theory that the longer we're in an organisation, the more difficult it is for us to actually see what the UGRs are. It's the new people who have the glasses, if you like, to be able to see through the talk and actually find out what they are. But they're very difficult to fight against.
So basically we can't see the wood for the trees.
Yeah, I think that's right, yes.
Well, Steve, a lot of your book deals with the issue of customer service. You say that's declining everywhere. Why do you think this is happening in a world when the consumer has more choice than ever.
It's quite incredible, isn't it, that customer satisfaction is on the decline. And there's evidence of this. It's really quite incredible. The American Customer Satisfaction Index, for example, has run for around 5 years, and that tracks the customer satisfaction for hundreds of the major organisations, including government organisations across America. And satisfaction since 1995 has declined quite substantially, to the tune of 12, 14, 15% for some organisations. I really wish we had something similar in Australia, because I think people's sense is that they are less satisfied. For example, the finance industry, banks for example, people are getting more and more unhappy with the level of service they're provided. Now, there's a couple of things in this. I think one is that we have higher expectations. So it may be that a company has actually improved its service, but our expectations have increased beyond what their service level has increased. So hence we get more dissatisfied. But the other thing, I think, is the talk about service, the marketing material, the promotional material that every company says, we are committed to customer service, we are committed to making sure your needs are identified. But often this can be just talk, and the real culture is not actually committed to customer service. In fact, I think some organisations think that customer service is the domain, the province of frontline staff, and the rest of us don't have to worry about it because that's the job of frontline staff. So if this culture isn't right, organisations won't provide good customer service. People can see through that.
Steve Simpson, thank you.
Thank you.